Morgan Uncensored, from Hollywood hotshot to Hollywood has-been and back again. Acting legend Mickey Rourke defies cancellation in a stunning and sometimes scandalous career spanning 40 years, including a lost decade in the Hollywood wilderness. He's fought and feuded with the titans of Tinseltown, has an opinion on almost everything, and I'm delighted to say he joins me now live from Los Angeles. Mickey, great to see you.
Great to see you.
I heard you mustering before we went to the commercial break, what does uncensored mean? And I would say you are an uncensored man.
Well, I'm my own man.
How have you been? I've interviewed you numerous times over the years. You look in great shape.
Yeah, the COVID thing actually helped me out a little bit because I was able to go around all the different sports shops and get all the workout equipment I needed for close to a year and a half. So I did nothing but train for, 45 minutes twice a day, and did a lot of reading and soul searching, and kind of tried to figure I was working out a game plan for the third chapter and trying to go over all the mistakes I made the first two chapters and not making them again, because it just made life difficult for me, and I've said this before, about over 20 years ago, I was in London actually at Blake's Hotel, sitting on the phone with Richard Harris, and Richard gave me some really good advice he said, Mickey, man, he said, listen, you can't beat them. There's too many of them, and they got too much money, and he says, you just got to pull back. And I got off the phone with Richard, and I thought, I'm going to do it my way. And, and I made a big mistake because Richard had been there before me, and I really was an asshole not to take Richard's sound, good advice that he gave.
What have you learned about yourself, Mickey, in this? It sounds a fascinating journey you've been on here. What have you learned most about yourself?
Well, the biggest thing was I came from a very shameful upbringing, and it was very violent, and it was very physical abuse and mental. And when I left home at 14 or 15, I didn't realize, I was so happy that the physical pain was over, because that was horrifying. That went on for nearly 10 years. But I didn't realize that it was going to fuck me up in my head, my way of thinking, my way of dealing with people, because you have a choice when you're abused physically. At the time, I wasn't thinking about it mentally. There comes a time, and it happened when I was about 14. And when you're living in shame, there's nothing worse than that. So you got two choices. You either live in shame and you become like a broken soul, a broken person, or you get hard. And I chose to get hard. Not by choice, just by survival. And as the years passed and I messed everything up that I tried to accomplish, I take the blame for it, because by me getting hard with everything and everybody, alienated me from, I became, as my therapist told me, a scary person to deal with. And I didn't know how to turn the off switch off.
And have you learned, Mickey, have you learned how to turn that off now?
I've learned, well, it's interesting. I went to therapy for 23 years, and I didn't ever think I would. But the therapist said to me one day, he said, after about 3 or 4 years, out of the 23 I went, he said, you have absolutely no regard for repercussions or accountability. He says, that's just not in your DNA. And I realized with dealing with people who deal from an authoritarian place, producers, who think that they can treat you a certain way because they're the ones with the money and the power, they finally ran into a cat that didn't give a fuck about their money and power.
I've got to watch your language, Mickey. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I have to apologize when you do that, but I understand why you feel this way.
Yeah, I apologize to it. I'm just saying, you know, people who have money and power, they really feel that they have this thing where they can treat you a certain way. But I made a decision a long time ago when I was 14 that I got to be a man. And I had to be a man at 14. And later on, as the years went by, even with the success and the destruction of my career, it was always important for me, because of where I came from, to be a man first and then actor second.
I interviewed just before The Wrestler came out, and it was an incredibly powerful interview because you'd been in the wilderness for so long then. And then suddenly The Wrestler came along and propelled you back to the top again. What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, but I'm back in the wilderness after The Wrestler.
But you're not really, though, are you? I don't think you are.
Not really, because what I learned to do was I wasn't going to let anyone put me on the shelf.
Yeah.
All right? Because I've got enough ability, and I've got more ability than most actors that are walking around. And if I could just behave myself, there's a lot of young up-and-coming directors that aren't afraid of how I used to be perceived.
When you see, Mickey, when you see someone like Tom Cruise, you know, grossing $1 billion with Top Gun Maverick, the sequel, 35 years or so after the first one, what do you think of that?
That doesn't mean shit to me. The guy's been doing the same effing part for 35 years. You know, I mean, I got no respect for that.
Really?
I don't give it. No, really, brother. I don't care about money and power. I care about when I watch Al Pacino work and Chris Walken and De Niro's early work and Richard Harris's work and Ray Winstone's work. That's the kind of actor I want to be, like Monty Cliff and, you know, Brando back in the day, and a lot of guys that just tried to stretch as actors and be the.
You don't think Tom Cruise is a good actor?
I think he's irrelevant in my world.
Fascinating. Mickey, hold it there. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back after the break to talk to you about. I want to talk about cancel culture and about Vladimir Putin. Welcome back. I'm with Mickey Rourke. Mickey, I want to ask you about cancel culture. What do you make of this weird phenomenon that we now will have to operate under?
About what?
Cancel culture.
I don't have any opinion on all that.
I mean, what do you think when you see people being cancelled for having an opinion?
That happens all the time. It's nothing new.
But do you think it's right?
I would have to be given a specific case.
Well, I'll give you one. So Macy Gray, the singer, came on my show last week and said what her definition of a woman was. And she got so much abuse for her honest opinion that she had to go on the Today Show in America and effectively back down on her opinion, which I thought was ridiculous. There's an example of the kind of mob mentality.
I don't think anybody should have to apologize for what their personal opinion is on any matter, unless their personal opinion is very narrow-minded and is going to hurt other people.
You said some interesting stuff about Vladimir Putin after you met him in 2014. You wore a T-shirt with his picture on it.
That was 2014. Okay?
No, that's what I said, yeah. So I wanted to ask you whether you're...
I just want to make that clear, okay?
Yeah.
I went over there in 2014, and it was some sort of event where some entertainers from the States came over, and he was dancing with Sharon Stone, and he actually was singing a song on a piano. And then he invited me specifically to go to his hometown in St. Petersburg to visit a home that took care of little tiny children that had kind of incurable cancer. And that was really heartbreaking to go to. And I was talking to all these little kids, and I remember I gave a rosary of mine to one of the little girls. And I looked over at Vladimir, and I could see somebody that was genuinely concerned about where we were, and someone who was empathetic, and he was there for a sincere reason.
But how do you square that, Mickey, with the guy we see now illegally invading Ukraine and bombing little children to pieces every single day?
That's the thing that blows my mind, because it's like two brother countries, and it's like, I don't understand what he wants. And it's like, not only combatants are getting killed, but old people are getting killed, young people are getting killed, schools are getting targeted, hospitals are getting targeted, and all that shit's not right. I saw a guy, an image of a man who was looking in a hole, in a ditch, and he was looking for and I put myself in his position. He was looking for his brother. And that kind of struck home with me and bothered me a lot, and made me think he's doing really terrible, bad things. And I wish some kind of little bell would ring in his head or his heart, and he'd wake up and just stop all this shit. And then I saw a picture of a man, an old man, laying shot on a bicycle, and an old woman shot on a bicycle. But the image that bothered me the most was I saw this old man holding a little gray kitten, and the old man survived his house being bombed. And he lost 5 family members. And the only thing he had kind of hard for me to talk about. The only thing he had was this little gray kitty. And I looked at that image, that fucking image, sorry, and I said, how can I have anything to worry about? Losing a movie, somebody saying bad shit about me, or I'm having a bad day, and I'm looking at this old guy holding a little kitty that crawled out from the rubble, and that's all he had, and he lost 5 family members. And ever since that day,
horrendous.
Ever since that day, I've said prayers for that man and for the 2 old people I saw on the street. And
Mickey, I'm going to have to end the interview. But what I want to do, if it's okay with you, I want to carry it on.
All I want to say.
I'm going to carry it on after we. We'll carry on, Mickey, after we come off air, and I'll record it for later in the week. Okay?
All right.